Well, I want to go over preparing your aluminum intake manifold for installation, although you don't need to do all this stuff, to tell you the truth. But what I do is anytime I put a bolt into an aluminum intake manifold, I put anti-seize on it. So I lost my old one, so this stuff will last you forever. Man, I actually had one for like 20 years. It's still, I freaking lost it though, so I got a new one. The other thing is off your old intake manifold, these plugs are a different size. This manifold conveniently uses from Edelbrock, uses a national pipe threads, standard national pipe threads fittings. So if you get a plug, you can go down to the hardware store and get it. So, but I got this from Summit Racing. Actually, this one I got from a hardware store. Couldn't find a 90-degree angle. I got it from Lowe's. They ran out, but that might work anyway. That's for the PCV valve. So it is kind of a nuisance in a way, because when you're changing stuff out, you got to get these plugs. You got to get the thing for the heater hose. This is the 5/8 heater hose. This one doesn't fit off the old one. It's different threads, so the plug doesn't fit. The PCV valve thing didn't fit. But you want to also use the thread tape on it, the pipe tape on it. And when you put it on there, you put it on there like this way. So when you turn it, it doesn't unravel. And this Teflon tape is really, it's twofold purposes. It helps you tighten this down a little more because it's acts like a lubricant. The other side of it is it does seal the threads. It's actually both. It actually helps you give it maybe a little extra quarter turn without stripping nothing out. The other thing is too, this is aluminum, right? So you want to make sure you take care of the threads. Now, if you ever have a problem with the threads getting screwed up, you go down to McMaster and you get yourself some steel inserts. Tap them out, put new steel inserts in it, so you're all set. The other thing, not all my bolts have a shoulder on them, so I'm either going to replace the bolts with a shoulder on it, so the shoulder torques up against here, or put a washer in there. So, and also put a little bit of anti-seize right here, so it's a little bit of a lubricant, or some kind of grease, so you're not digging into the metal. When you're torquing it down right here, not this one. Anything you have threads in, aluminum, I found this out on any aluminum engine, use anti-seize. In a pinch, you can use wheel bearing grease. Anti-seize is better. I'm also going to be running the thermal insulator plate. I didn't get a really high up one. I got a 1/2 inch one that fits up on here with this way. The gasket. Well, I'm showing two gaskets on the top, but it's like gasket below and a gasket below above. And well, it fits on there, trust me. Yeah. And when you put these on here, you know not to over tighten them, but you want to have them tight enough to make a good seal. But you don't want to use RTV on these gaskets from the carb to the manifold, or actually it's an adapter. I'm actually putting the 2-barrel Holley. It's a Barry Grant Demon, but it's the same thing as a 2-barrel Holley CFM that's going on this engine. It's a 305. But when you put these on here with the gaskets, it's good to put this stuff, high-tack spray a gasket sealant. This stuff works very good with gasoline, basically, like when you're mounting a carb to an intake. You put this on it's like a reddish color. Actually got my old can over there, which is well used up, and I got 3 new cans of this stuff. So when I bolt this out, it's gonna have that stuff on there. The other thing is, it's got the nuts that go into here for when you install the carburetor. And what I did was I didn't use epoxy or you can use RTV to kind of hold them in there. It's not really that strong, but and I didn't want to use epoxy because if I say the nut stripped out, you'd have a hard time knocking the damn thing out of there. I used black weather strip adhesive to hold the nut in there. So when actually this will have a washer under that. When you screw down the carb on top of this, you're not gonna drop. You're not gonna have to worry about this nut dropping out of here or some crap or catching the threads and all this kind of garbage. It'll just screw in there nice and even. So that's my adapter plate. And you can see this adapter plate doesn't have a really huge mating surface on there, and that's why it's going to get sprayed down with this on both the gasket side and this with this on both the adapter plate side and the gasket side. So it'll make an extremely good seal. The other thing is, on my thermostat, I put a 1/16 of an inch hole in the thermostat body, like the plate. You can't see it. It was on another video. I always do this in all my cars. It's not enough. In other words, it's like a slight bypass hole. It's not enough to make a difference where the engine's going to run too cool or something like that, or the thermostat's not going to block off enough coolant to, so the radiator can do its job. But it's enough to help bleed air out of the system. I always put that little 1/8 inch hole in the thermostat, in the body itself. Like you got the thermostat and you got the part with the spring, on the outside edge of the body, like maybe about that far in from the edge. Just a little 1/16 of an inch hole, so you got a bleeder there. It actually, all these things actually eat up time. And that's, most of the time, if you don't do the work yourself, you're going to find that, the people that do the work for you aren't going to do all this stuff. It'll work. I mean, not that they don't do it, they do it wrong, but it's not going to be as good as, like, say, if you're going to take this off 5 years from now, you might find, that, some of the threads of the aluminum came out because I replaced this or whatever. It's just going to make the damn thing last forever. It's going to be making 100% trouble free and all this other garbage. So that's what you want, right? And this thing was cool enough to come with the gasket. Notice there's a little scrape with this right here. See that? I guess that will crush down. So that's why you use that stuff right there. This will fit up there and the carb will fit on it and all this garbage. But will that sit up too high? Hopefully not. We're gonna find out. I actually have an air cleaner on here that is a little bit, it's a custom size. I got it taped up, but there's a custom size air cleaner on about that thick. It's thick enough for the 305, but I think it was for a Fiat or something like that. You can go on K&N and get different. It's a K&N air filter. You can get different size air filters that if you got to get something a little bit lower, because you're going to put an adapter plate, and if it is a little high, I'll try running it. That's the one reason I got a half inch spacer versus a 1 inch or 2 inch spacer. If it is hitting something in the hood, I'll just take that spacer out, but it might not. Just run 2 gaskets or something, but it might not. But that does eat up time. This little bullshit eats up time. And like I said, I'm gonna get some bolts with. The other bolts don't have this shoulder on it. Whoever did this engine kind of like did some stupid stuff on it, And if this car with the cam, just a stock replacement cam, which is going to seem like a performance cam compared to the old worn out cam, it's totally wiped out practically. It's going to seem like a performance cam, even though it's not. If it works good, because this thing actually if it works good with that cam, it actually runs not bad even with the cam wiped out, because that Demon 2-barrel, Barry Grant 2-barrel, it's a Holly, basically, 2-barrel CFM, woke this car up. It really did. I put it on here probably about 12 years ago or so. It actually, car doesn't run that bad. But it kind of like lacks power or something. But if it actually runs good and it's got good power, I will not upgrade to a 350. I'll put, if I go replace the engine and put it all brand new with a remanufactured engine, it will be a 305 from the 78 year with the dipstick, the oil dipstick on the driver's side versus the passenger side. It will have the exact 6-bolt exhaust manifold pattern for the stock manifolds, which I'll use. Because if it's adequate power, fine. Because the only thing I'm really going to need any power for with this car is the haul stuff or tow stuff with it. And the main upgrades will be, if there's any expensive upgrades, it's going to be the transmission and a rear end. Probably an M22 0 to Z ratio and a 9-inch Ford rear end with the 11-inch drum brakes, So, but if it runs good with this 305, it's going to be a 305 forever, because gas prices are going up. But just want to point out, use the anti-seize anytime you thread a bolt into something. Make sure you use the Teflon tape for on your plugs or fittings. Make sure you put the Teflon tape on this way, like if this is this, put it on this way, so when you screw it on, it doesn't unravel the Teflon tape. When you're mounting a carb or any kind of adapters or spacers with the gasket, it's good to use, don't over tighten it, it's good to use this stuff, high-tech spray a gasket sealant. And you don't need to actually put Loctite. This is Loctite Blue 242, not Loctite 271 Red. It's the blue stuff that you can uninstall. It's good to put that on these studs. The studs you probably never have to replace, but if you ever have to replace them, the Loctite Blue is not going to be a problem to uninstall. Even if you use Loctite Red, the only thing you would have to, which I wouldn't recommend using it with aluminum, but even if you did, all you do is you take a propane, and after you take the spacer off and the adapter, take a propane, put the propane right on this stud itself, and then once the Loctite heats up, which will work even with the 242, it'll make it even easier to take out, the stud will unscrew. That's how you overcome Loctite. Loctite, just put a lot of heat on it, just breaks down. But the Loctite will also keep the threads from getting screwed up between the steel and the aluminum with any kind of electrolysis or anything like that. And again, like when I torque down these bolts, I'm going to have, the shoulder, I'm going to have the bolts with the shoulder, but there's also going to be, or a washer, if you just maybe use a washer, there's also going to be some anti-seize or grease right here, so it's not going to gall up the aluminum. That's nitpicky shit. But, when you're doing your own stuff, might as well do it to the nth degree. So, I don't know how helpful this video is to some people or not, but, when you buy an intake manifold, just think you're going to have to, all these little bullshit fittings aren't going to fit, so, and watch for your hood clearance. I'm not sure if my hood's going to clear, but, it might, with just a half-inch spacer in that. And like I said, I got a K&N filter that is not, it's not real skinny. It's maybe about like that, maybe 2 inches. But if I had a 3-inch filter, I wouldn't have been able to close the hood. But I think I got enough room with this. I think there's plenty of room. Because actually I put, with the stock manifold, which is lower than this, that's that one right there. Matter of fact, let's put it up there and see what it looks like. Yeah, I can see that one's definitely higher than this one, but let's see what we got here. Let's say from the edge, let's say from the hole. From the hole to there is 3 inches. Or a little over 3 inches. Now, from the hole there is under 5 inches. So it's under 2 inches less height. And I was able to run this with a 2-inch spacer and still close the hood with that particular air cleaner. So, you know, no problem. It'll fit. But, you know, and I'm actually looking at the design of this thing being up a little higher like that, plus with the thermal spacer. It's probably, you know, it's probably going to have a little more power. So, not much. Like I said, I would not have bought this if this was a 4-barrel intake manifold, even if it was a Rochester intake manifold, because you can always get an adapter for it. Because I'm a cheapskate. I know that most things with cars, well, this isn't such a bad upgrade. Usually it's the intake, the cam, and the headers, right? Fine. And maybe doing a little, like, when you have the heads off, you know, smoothing out everything, right? When you start, I'm going to just say a couple things here, like turn the video off, whatever the fuck you want to do, but I found this out from experience. You know, people get in this game where they constantly upgrade their small block. Small blocks are great for certain things, especially, you know, high RPMs. They can rev, and that's where they get their power. Like the 283 Chevy, bored out 120 thousandths. You can actually bore it out. It had a lot of meat on that thing. That was the 301. That's when it came out with the Z28 302. It was really from the 283 Chevy bored out to 120 thousandths. It was a rever. It had smaller crank journals on it. The old 327s had smaller crank journals on them. They could rev, and they made a lot more power up high. But for street, if you're actually just talking about street performance, which I'm not looking for, but if you were, cubic inches is the way to go, and basically stock. Because when you get a cam that has a wilder cam, it's got lower vacuum, and then you run into other issues with something maybe doesn't work right with a vacuum. It's harder to start in, you know, 0 Fahrenheit weather. I don't know. This is a lot of. It might overheat more or something. I don't know. It's just like, maybe let's see. Okay, you could put aluminum radiator in there and electric fans and all this crap. But you see what I mean? If you have a stock 454 if you're a Chrysler guy, 428 Ford if you're a Ford guy, or 440 Mopar, and you know it's bored out a little bit, 30 thousandths, giving maybe 6 cubic inches more, it's got plenty of power. You know, and it's real easy to fix something that's stock. You know, it's like, because you just look in a book. You know, there's no guessing on the tuning too. You know, it's really way easier. But, you know, doing an intake manifold, even a mild performance cam and headers, and maybe if you pull the heads off and you did a little, you know, say while they're off and you're doing a valve job and maybe you just cleaned up things in there and smooth them out, that's fine. But generally speaking, you know, the only reason I think a small block is really good for the street is if a car wants to handle really good. Like a Corvette small block is going to handle better than a big block. A 340 Cuda is going to handle better than a 440 Cuda or something. You know what I mean, right? So, anyway, just throwing that out there, because this is one of the few upgrades that is worth it to me, more or less. But like I said, I'm so cheap. If this was a 4-barrel manifold, I wouldn't even have done that, because, you know, I think I might need a 4-barrel in the future, or maybe some type of fuel injection that has the Holley square pattern, 4-barrel pattern, and I wouldn't be able to use this damn thing anyway. So, you know, I'm looking to the future, because I really am pretty cheap. You know, it's like stock is usually the best. You know, a 454 that put out 390 horsepower is gonna walk all over a 350, even though the block is more weight with the 454, because it's going to be pulling right from idle. It's going to have more power all the way through it, you know. So, but like I said, you know, the handling is there with the 350 motor because it's lighter. or an LS motor is aluminum. It's even lighter then, you know. But you know, like I said, you wind up getting into so much money. Stock is way cheaper, and if you really want to get a lot of power cheap, cubic inches and a stock motor, and you know, you can just take that thing and you could be out there 15 below zero with a stock motor with a stock carburetor on it. Maybe it puts out, maybe it only puts out, maybe it's the standard 440 Chrysler that theoretically puts out 350 horsepower. Actually, it puts out more than that, but you know, that's what they rated them as. That thing would start up. Yeah, if you got, you know, a different cam in there, you got, you know, a different carburetor and all this. Have fun out there in the wintertime. If you want to, you know, me, I drive these damn cars all the time. So, you know, I don't like modifying them too much. But this is not, this is a good mod. This is a good mod. And definitely, I needed this mod because this 2-barrel, you know, you might as well change it when the cam's coming out, right? But like I said, this is all a little nitpicky shit I do to the car. And that's why it's taking me more time besides the weather. The weather's, you know, raining out. I'm mowing the lawn and doing other projects out here. But I'm not, and I'm waiting for parts too, because I forgot about getting some of these little doodads that I'm telling you about. Like the plugs were different. I thought I was able to swap them out. This plug from this manifold don't fit this one. This thing for the heater core don't fit that one. The heater hose don't fit that. So anyway, over and out. And I hope I just gave you some tip, even one tip. All right. I know sometimes it's a pain in the ass to find the one tip you want to find in the video, but I don't know who the hell. Sometimes I'm telling 10 things to one person, maybe one person's like not getting any damn information. Sorry, best I could do, but sometimes it's best getting the damn information out there one way or the other.